My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Welcome to a new episode of The Eagle, a Times Union podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Marshall. We are going to start this episode off with a proper send-off for one of our longest tenured Times Union staffers. After 4 decades here at the TU, features managing editor Gary Hahn is retiring. He joins me now for a look back at his illustrious career. Tell me your superhero origin story, how you ended up here.
Well, I actually went to college for journalism in Buffalo State. I went to a small newspaper in Jamestown, New York, which is in the southwest corner of the state. I was there a couple of years as a reporter, and then a little bit as a copy editor. And then this was in the mid-'80s, and the job market was pretty tight, but the Times Union in Albany was hiring. I grew up in Syracuse. So I figured, it's not going back home, but it's going to another upstate city. It wouldn't be too far away from the family. So I came here, and back then they had week-long tryouts where they actually put you up in a hotel for an entire week while you tried out for the job.
That's posh.
Yeah.
Why didn't they do? Well, I live here, so that wouldn't.
You should have tried it anyway. But I mean, it was newspapers had a lot of money back then, and they spent it. You know, there was a lot of conferences. There was a lot of sending people all over the country for special reports and stuff. It was a different economy for newspaper and for journalism in the 80s and 90s than it is now.
I mean, where did you start when you were here? Like, what were you hired as?
I was hired as a copy editor, and nights and weekends, and then started some design, which I liked a lot, and was basically that for the first probably 7 years. Then settled down, realized I wanted to stay here. So then I started moving up the ranks. I became, regional editor, and then back then it was called executive news editor. You basically ran the night copy desk, and I had the Tuesday through Saturday shift, which was less enviable for some, but it got me working on the Sunday product, which I loved. I loved the Saturday staff there. It was kind of like you had a lot, no one else was here except the people putting out the paper. So you felt like you were in charge. And I want to talk a little bit about the 80s. It was a whole different, obviously the technology was different. There was not the wonderful digital product that we have now. It was all print oriented. That didn't come along until the early 90s, mid 90s probably. It was just a different atmosphere here. People smoked inside the office.
Not you, though.
We actually had cigar night once in a while from the copy desk until the sports department complained. There were, some fist fights, some people throwing things around, things that wouldn't be condoned today, nor should they ever have been condoned.
Sure, like heat of the moment kind of
Yes.
stuff. Like, we got to get this out.
Deadline pressure, yes, definitely. And hotheads, hot-tempered people. You look back on it and you shudder at, what would have happened to these employees back then. So it's a good change. That is a good change that has happened, obviously. And though it does make for some great stories.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Do you have any specific stories?
No, I think that kind of covers it. I don't want to bring in any names.
You don't want to smear
Some of them are still alive.
Yeah. Well, that's, that probably was pretty universal, too, like in a lot of newsrooms.
Yes, this is not Times Union specific. People just didn't have an understanding of how their actions could affect other people working who were less likely to want to get into a fist fight necessarily. There was one guy who got a black eye because he took the other guy's New York Times. And basically, they were both brought into the office and just said, "Don't do that again."
Well, now you can just share the digital love with the New York Times, right? Like, you don't need your solid paper.
Exactly. No one's going to be smashing someone over the head with a laptop then for reading their own.
Yes, it's very peaceful in this office now.
Yes, it is. And for the good, really.
I want to move to the 90s and the advent of the digital age and like what you were doing during that time.
I was mostly print oriented and kind of have been when my designing came in, though I always worked with the people who were developing the new, what was called the electronic TU or the electric TU.
The electric TU, I like that.
Yeah.
Can we bring that back?
I know. They had a staff of 3. And I worked with them, of course, but it was because I had become somewhat of a designer. I love that aspect of journalism, and I love designing. I miss it today.
And by designing, you mean kind of laying out the paper and the imagery and all that?
Yes, picking photos or how the photos were treated. Just making a good-looking front page back then was kind of a treat to do. I just loved doing that, and as well as being the last person who pushed the button to get the paper out.
Was it a big red button? Like, what was the button?
No, it's just, you sent out the paper. And I only had to say stop the presses once when we saw a mistake, and I can't even remember.
You can't remember what that was?
No, but it was something that I had to run out and say, I had to call like the editor-in-chief back then, and then he said, yep. And even though like maybe 1,000 papers had run, I ran out and actually said, we got to make a change, throw those pages out, and we'll take the hit on the money.
Was it a big dramatic moment where you bust through the doors and said, stop the presses?
No, I probably just walked like a meek editorial people. There were rough pressmen back then, but I bet in my heart was pumping when I did it, so it probably felt more dramatic than it looked.
We'll do a dramatic recreation.
So otherwise, the 90s is, that was when we had to all relearn the fact that print wasn't the only thing. And I think we were early on. I think what was happening with the electric TU was not happening in every paper. And I think even from then on, I think our digital look and our website, I think we're ahead of the curve for most papers, both in the Hearst Corporation and I think across the country.
All right, so the turn of the century, the aughts, the 2000s, take me through that.
Yeah, there was a recession in 9/11, which meant less money for newspapers, but we had an old black and white press, and we managed to get funded for a new color one, which came later in the aughts and in the early teens, and that was when I really enjoyed my job, but I was beginning to look for something else within the paper. And luckily, in the early teens, an arts position on the feature side opened up, and the arts editor was leaving. It was a lateral move, but what it afforded me at the time I had kids in school, so I was still working Tuesday through Saturday nights. So what it afforded me was Monday through Friday days, and I got to see my kids. And, it just worked out that way. Now, the plus side of working those strange hours in the beginning is when my kids were young, my wife could work days, I would work nights. So the daycare
Your wife
thing,
also worked at the paper, right?
Yes. Keem Norder is the head of the editorial pages and shares an office wall with me, but that comes much later, actually. But she worked days.
Do you guys do Morse code through the office?
Yeah, we do, actually. We knock. And that allowed her to work days. And we didn't have to rely on daycare so much because I was around during the day and worked nights. So that actually was a boon. But when they got to school the first time, I started missing them. And this opened up, and it actually kind of revived my, excitement. Not that I lost the excitement, but it kind of added something new. And the arts and editor position was so unlike the other position, which we never dealt with the public. If you screwed up one night, you could start fresh again the next day in that old job, but this one you had to kind of follow things from day to day to day. Mm-hmm. So it was a different type of job, and it really revived my career. And Tracy Ormsby was the one who brought me over, and I am appreciative of her. And so I had that until she left, and then I moved up into her position, and then right about the time of the pandemic, there was a change in leadership here with Casey Sauter coming on board, and I was made managing editor. So I never really sought leadership or status changes or a new title, but when you're in a place long enough and opportunities arise, you take them. It's sort of like battlefield promotions, where someone leaves and there's a vacancy, and then you would just ascend. So that
no one died though. There was no death.
No deaths. No, not even in the violent days. No deaths. And that's where I've been since 2020. I've been here as a managing editor of feature sports and special projects, and I've loved. I've truly loved every minute of it. It's been a great 4 decades here, and driving into this parking lot every day has never been something that I dreaded or thought was boring, because as you know, every day here is different, and you never know what to expect. And the people here are great, so all that has sustained me. And though I think it's a good time to leave, I will miss it very much.
Yes, absolutely. Can we rewind for a second? Can you think of a specific project that you worked on here, whether it was more recent or in the past, that you are so particularly proud of?
That's a good one. When I came over as arts editor, I was just, bursting with ideas. And there was a video that came out in 1986 to celebrate the tricentennial. And it was with a kind of a hokey song called "Let's Have a Party, Albany." And I thought, well, why don't we recreate that? And so I kind of went around and started taking video all over the city, just pulling people out of their occupations and reaching out to Mayor Sheehan and former Mayor Jennings and other luminaries. And then I got a group of people to turn up one night at the Linda to recreate the song.
Let's have a big bash, Albany. Let's celebrate now, Albany. 3:30 candles, Albany.
And a lot of people came, and it didn't feel like power, but it felt like, if I didn't have the job as arts editor, none of these people would be showing up to do this project. But to be able to bring it to life just by sheer momentum, by sheer force of will.
Albany, New York.
Being on the feature side, it was kind of the fun aspect where, some of the things are more tragic. And I'm so proud of this paper, for especially, and I could say this, I was an editor then, and I wasn't in the core part of the project, but I edited a copy. And so I would have to say, back when I was news editor, the stuff we did early on NXIVM was the most courageous thing I've seen any paper do, because we were the only one out there at the beginning. That place had powerful and financially powerful backers who would sue anyone who would even hint at writing about them. And yet we went ahead and we wrote the initial stories that eventually led to what happened with NXIVM. I witnessed those reporters, basically being on the front line of this story when no one else would take it, not the New York Times, not some of the magazines who were approached. So if you want to ask what I'm most proud of, it was being, even a small part of that, and being around a newsroom that was able to pull that off.
Some pretty powerful moments over the last 40 years that you've been here. Like, it just, it's hard to even encapsulate that, right, in a 15-minute interview.
Yeah. 4 decades is a long time, and I can, ramble on and probably will think of 5 more things after this interview is done. But all I could say is that it's a profession like very few, and I'm just happy it was the profession I made my home for the last 4 decades, and that the Times Union was the place I made my home for the past 4 decades.
We are really going to miss Gary here at the Times Union. We wish him the absolute best, and he will always have an open invitation to come back on this show. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to learn about how business reporter Larry Rulison had a way more exciting week than all of us.
Why is healthcare so expensive? What's happening with climate change? And are elections safe? You can find answers to those questions and a lot more with Capitol Confidential from me, Dan Clark. I give you the latest news and analysis from the state capitol and beyond. Sign up now at CapitolConfidential.com. That's Capital with an O, confidential.com.
Schoharie County Sheriff's Office and New York State Police Patrols responded to a motor vehicle crash at the intersection of State Route 30 and State Route 30A in the town of Schoharie.
The limo crash that killed 20 people in upstate New York on October 6, 2018 is one of the deadliest ground transportation disasters in U.S. history.
Things should have never been on the road to begin with.
How the hell did this happen?
The owner of the limousine company was a former FBI informant.
Well, this was certainly one of the most egregious cases of intentional disregard for human life.
It's a story of tragedy and loss, of negligence and consequence. But more than anything else, it's a story of catastrophic failure.
We just want the truth to come out.
If you're enjoying this podcast, take advantage of all the Times Union has to offer and support our efforts to bring you award-winning journalism by becoming a Times Union subscriber today. Go to timesunion.com/subscribe.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Eagle, a Times Union podcast. I am so excited about this next segment. I've been planning it for more than a year now. In fact, I've been planning it since the very moment that Times Union business reporter Larry Rulison came up to my desk one morning in April of 2024 and told me excitedly that he was going to be a contestant on Family Feud. I've worked with him closely over the last few years, and I have never seen him so excited. Of course, I had heard of Family Feud, but I hadn't really watched it very much, so I didn't really know the rules or what it was about. So when Larry came back from filming, I had a million questions. What was it like on set? Was Steve Harvey cool? Did you win? But Larry wouldn't say much. He was sworn to secrecy by the production company. First rule of being on a TV game show: no spoilers till after the show airs. And Larry took that oath very seriously. He kept that secret for a whole year. Now, flash forward to this past week, his episode finally aired on CBS 6. We all tuned in to cheer him on.
All right, Larry. Came out here fired up, man. That's what we need. Now, Larry got decent news for you. Teddy got 133.
Oh, man, God, That's awesome.
That's pretty good. Now, Larry, you need 67 points to win.
And wouldn't you know, Larry and his team, that included his 3 brothers and sister-in-law, won the whole freaking thing. And it all came down to Larry in the end.
That's pretty good. Now, Larry, you need 67 points to win. It's going to be a little bit tougher this time, so we'll give you 25 seconds. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's remind everybody of Teddy's answers. 25 seconds on the clock, please.
So without further ado, Times Union business reporter and Family Feud winner Larry Rulison joins me now to talk about his fabulous experience. I do want to acknowledge that it's really nice to be talking to you on a Times Union podcast about something that's like lighthearted and fun.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we've been in like really serious mode for a long time producing Catastrophic Failure, our sister podcast. So I'm so glad that you're with me to talk about something other than tragedy.
No, it's great. It's been a great couple of days.
Larry's relationship with Family Feud dates back to his childhood in the 80s. He says he'd watch it when he stayed home sick from school.
I probably never watched it except if I was homesick because it was during the school day. But it just had like a huge impression on me. I was always like, oh, I would love to get on that show because they were always trying to get people to be on the show, families. I was amazed people used to go to their local TV station to like audition or try out, I guess. And then the TV station would send people. The thing I really loved about it is like they would have the family name behind each family who are like on each side of the host. And they would have like a little living room where the family would be sitting like frozen like a portrait at the start of the show, and then all of a sudden the music will come on and they'd start clapping, get up and go to their, lectern there. I thought that was always so cool.
Quick primer on how Family Feud works. There are 2 teams of 5 players on every show, and each team's players have to be related by blood or by marriage. The 2 families face off in several rounds of guessing popular answers to survey questions. The first team to reach 300 points advances to the bonus round, and that's called Fast Money. That's a lightning round when 2 members of the winning family are asked 5 rapid-fire survey questions. If their answers match the most popular survey answers, they get points.
The goal is that between the 2 contestants, if you get 200 points, you win 20 grand.
How did you end up on the show, right? Your brother was kind of the motivator here?
Yeah, my brother Ted, he's the youngest. I have 3 brothers. There's 4 of us, 4 Rulison brothers. I'm the oldest. Ted is the youngest. One day he texted the 3 of us and said, "Hey, I signed us up for a Family Feud audition, and so let's just cross our fingers and see what happens." This was like in maybe September 2023.
Okay, so Ted signed you guys all up, and then you ended up getting an audition, right?
Yeah, which honestly, I didn't even think that would happen, and it happened pretty quick. Ted was very persistent with them. From the beginning, we felt good about it, but I never thought we'd get past an audition.
What was the audition like? Like, were you just like sitting on Zoom? Or
yeah, it was on Zoom, and the producer was this really nice guy, and he basically played the role of Steve Harvey and asking us a question, and it was, what type of bottle would be on a dining table at a restaurant?
Wine, right? Wine. Soda.
Yeah, wine was like number 1, but like we didn't say wine. No one said wine. We said ketchup, which was good.
That's a good
one. And
one.
my brother said like a whiskey bottle, which made no sense. They didn't care what we said. They just wanted to see if we were enthusiastic and had the right
like a
kind
good
of
like
energy.
rapport, right? Like a good chemistry.
Yeah, they were always saying, "Hey, this is a great fun show, family show. We want you to have a lot of fun, and we really want you to really get into it." I felt like that was my role because I was totally willing to, go nuts to show that we could have a lot of energy, and I didn't really care if I made a fool of myself. I just wanted to give like Ted my all, basically.
Larry gave it his all, and not long after, the Rulison brothers got the call. They were headed to Atlanta to be on the show. Tell me about the experience filming it.
I've been on like news sets, TV news sets, maybe at WMHT, but those were always empty. This was like, fully functional Family Feud set. It was huge. It was gigantic.
Did you guys, like, you and your brothers and your sister-in-law, did you guys get together and train for this? Like, was there any training that you could do to like prepare?
Ted said he would practice. I think he would basically watch the show and try to like shout out answers. But we weren't ever together till we got down to Atlanta. They just said, you should watch the show a lot, get to know it. And when we got down there, though, we kind of created this like practice routine. I would like have my brother and sister-in-law in like a semicircle around me, and I would pretend to be Steve Harvey, just asking people questions really quick. And the whole goal was like, make sure you give an answer at least.
Yeah. Think on your feet.
I was just trying to get people like used to like thinking on their feet.
The production tapes 4 episodes a day. Larry says there were at least 10 other families there at the same time for the filming. The way they do it is they sit them in the audience until it's their turn to film. The Rulisons had to sit through 1 day of taping before they were called up. And when it was their turn, well, they were ready. So the first episode, so I'm going to tell you how I experienced it. Yeah, I was watching at home with my husband and my son. We were all cheering for you guys. It was so exciting
Yeah.
to just, see you on the big screen and see your brothers, who look just like you, by the way.
I know, right?
But the scene that I really keyed in on was the end. The end round where you described it with the fast money round. You guys
Yeah,
obviously
yeah,
bested your opponents and you made it to the fast money round. And
yeah.
then it all came down to you, right? Like you were the one who ended up, making the guesses that ended in triumph, right? How did that feel? What was that moment like? You must have been nervous, right?
I was like in this like just trance. I was terrified. Because I didn't know how I was going to perform. Like I never. It's like you might play a basketball game. You kind of know how good you are, how you're going to play. You know how you size up your opponent. I had no idea. Was I going to like freeze up? Was I going to like totally get all the answers wrong? I had no idea. I didn't know what it would be like. My brother Ted was the first person to answer, and I was second. So like, yeah, I was like the guy. I had to close the deal. It was a lot of pressure.
How did they end up making it so that you were like the guy, the closer? Like, was that happenstance? Was
So
that planned?
Ted and I had decided that in advance by ourselves because it turned out great because Ted got 140 points out of the 200 we needed to get. I just had to like, seal the deal.
Yeah, you just had the back cleanup, right?
Yeah, exactly. But,
And you totally delivered too. Like
oh,
that was an epic moment. I don't want to spoil it for those who want to watch it, but
right.
basically like it came down to the final answer, which
Yes.
happened to be the number one answer, right? Which got you like a load of points and pushed you over the edge.
Sometimes people lose so badly they don't even get close to 200, or they get it, early on, like after two questions, like they've reached the points, it's over. But this went down to the final question, and I needed 13 points, and sometimes you just get a zero. So
Nail biter.
I don't know how I answered the questions. I mean, if you saw it, I totally didn't listen to the first question, and my answer was horrible.
Instead of a supermodel, name an occupation you wish girls would look up to.
Football players.
How many?
So Steve Harvey's like up there going, whispering in my ear, kind of. I don't know if you could tell, but like he's like going, dude, that was horrible. He's like, you gotta step this up. He kept telling me I was going too slow, but the producers had said, take your time. You get 25 seconds if you're the second person. There was less than a second left when I gave my final answer.
Name an animal print that looks good on an animal but not on grandma.
Oh, leopard.
Try again.
Oh, zebra.
Boy, you had me working, Larry.
Yeah, I got you.
Oh man, that's a nail biter.
We are 13 away. Name an animal print that looks good on the animal but not on grandma. You said zebra. Survey said.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then in the end, obviously, there's this big triumphant moment. You are just ecstatic. You and your brothers are like just going crazy. Like, what was that? How did that feel?
I just went nuts. Ted jumped like into my arms and landed on my foot. He broke my toe. And Tanya like damaged ligaments and was in a boot for 6 months after the show.
Oh my God, all because of that ending celebration.
Yeah, we were going crazy. I had just been so nervous, and you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. We never had any expectation we'd even get on the show after we went down to Atlanta. And then when we did get on, we did not think we were going to win. I mean, if you saw the thing, we were down most of the way against the other team. But the way that the game is structured, it can flip on a dime at any point. That's what's great about the game is you don't really have to be the smartest person in the room to get it right. It's a lot of luck.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Now, of course, not to draw anything away from that wonderful moment, but you had to keep that a secret for like a year, right?
That was so hard. I have such a sense of relief now because I would get asked about it like every single day for 13 months or 12 months, whatever it was. It was so hard. Even I couldn't tell my wife. I couldn't tell my parents. My dad kept going, "You got to tell me. You got to tell me."
As I said before, I worked closely with Larry on our Catastrophic Failure podcast for that whole year between the filming and the airing. Now, I never asked him directly. I knew not to do that from other folks that I know who've been on game shows. But I wondered about it, and I am so impressed that anyone could keep a secret that big for that long. As of Tuesday night of this week, the episode aired, and you went out to Syracuse. You had a gathering of like a giant gathering from what it looks like of family and friends. And what was that experience like?
That was so cool. I was like, oh God, this could be like going to my own wedding or something. Everyone's going to want to talk to me. But like, it was a lot of fun. I hadn't seen a lot of these people in a long time. It was a lot of family friends I'd known since I was little. Two of my friends from junior high when I grew up in Syracuse, I hadn't seen them for 30 years, showed up for the viewing party and surprised me, and I had no idea they were going to be there. I don't even know if they knew I would be there. They just wanted to see it. A lot of people, spent time on their Tuesday night coming out to this beer garden we went to that was like really big. And there was also like customers there eating, not knowing that there was a Family Feud party, and they got really into it. People were offering me food. They were saying, "Why don't you come sit down?" They wanted to take pictures with me. It was like being a celebrity.
You can watch clips from the episode of Family Feud that Larry Rulison and his family won on Family Feud's YouTube page. Congratulations to the whole team. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week with more from inside the newsroom. The Eagle is a production of the Times-Union. It's produced and edited by myself, Jessica Marshall, with help from Erica Smith and the Times-Union digital team. Our music is Flyin' by Top Floor. Special thanks to Gary Hahn and Larry Rulison for their contributions to this episode. Got questions or comments about this podcast or any of our podcasts here at the Times-Union? Please email us at podcast@timesunion.com. We want to hear from you, our listeners.